Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he checked his cargo ship's navigation system. The Viridian Nebula stretched out before him like a purple and blue painting across the darkness of space. He had flown this route dozens of times, carrying supplies between the outer colonies. It was boring work, but it paid enough to keep him flying. The distress signal came through just as Jake was about to make his jump to the next sector. At first, he thought about ignoring it. Distress signals in the nebula were often just sensor glitches caused by the radiation, but something made him change course. Maybe it was the way the signal pulsed, weak and desperate like a heartbeat fading away. Jake guided his ship toward the source. It took 20 minutes of careful flying through the swirling clouds of gas and dust before he spotted the damaged vessel. It was unlike any ship he had seen before. The hull was smooth and curved, almost organic-looking, with patterns that seemed to shimmer even though half of it was torn apart. "Hello, this is cargo pilot Jake Morrison responding to your distress signal. Can anyone hear me?" Jake spoke into his communication system. Only static answered him. He moved his ship closer, scanning the wreckage. His instruments showed faint life signs inside, 4 of them. Jake's hands moved quickly across the controls, bringing his ship alongside the damaged vessel. He knew he should call for proper rescue teams, but his scanners showed the alien ship's power core was unstable. It could explode at any moment. Jake grabbed his emergency suit and helmet, checking the oxygen levels. He had maybe 2 hours of air. It would have to be enough. He opened the airlock and pushed himself across the empty space between the 2 ships, using his suit's small thrusters to guide him. The hole in the alien vessel's hull was large enough for Jake to float through. Inside, emergency lights flickered, casting strange shadows on the walls. The corridor bent and curved in ways that made Jake dizzy. He followed his handheld scanner toward the life signs. He found them in what looked like a living area. 3 small creatures were trapped under a fallen beam. They were about the size of large dogs, covered in scales that shifted between green and silver. Their eyes were huge and golden, and they made soft, chirping sounds when they saw Jake. Near them, a much larger creature lay motionless on the floor. She was clearly their mother, with the same scales but in deeper shades of emerald and bronze. Jake's heart pounded as he approached. The young ones cried out, their chirps becoming more urgent. He could see fear in their eyes, but also hope. The mother's chest moved slightly. She was alive, but barely. "It's okay. I'm here to help," Jake said softly, even though he knew they probably couldn't understand him. He examined the beam carefully. It was made of the same strange material as the ship, lighter than it looked but still too heavy for him to lift alone. Jake returned to his ship and grabbed his portable lift and medical kit. Time was running out. His scanner showed the power core's radiation levels rising. Back in the alien vessel, Jake positioned the lift under the beam. The young creatures watched him with those huge golden eyes. Slowly, carefully, he raised the beam just enough to pull them free one by one. They were surprisingly light in his arms, their scales smooth and warm to the touch. Each one chirped softly as he moved them to safety near the corridor. The mother was harder to move. She was much heavier, and Jake worried about injuring her further. He checked her with his medical scanner. The device wasn't designed for alien biology, but it showed serious injuries. He did what he could, applying universal medical foam to her worst wounds and giving her a dose of general stabilizer from his kit. Jake made 3 trips back to his ship, carrying the young ones first. They didn't want to leave their mother, clinging to him with small claws that didn't quite break through his suit. He spoke to them constantly, keeping his voice calm and steady. "Your mom's coming too. I promise, just need to get you safe first." The power core's alarm began beeping a warning. 5 minutes until critical failure. He pushed the stretcher ahead of him through the corridor, bumping against walls in his rush. The young ones watched from his ship's airlock, their chirps echoing through his communication system. Jake's lungs burned as he worked, his oxygen running low from the physical effort. 3 minutes. He reached the hole in the hull and pushed the stretcher through. His thrusters sputtered, low on fuel. Jake kicked off hard from the alien ship, praying he had enough momentum. 2 minutes. His hands grabbed the edge of his airlock. The young ones rushed toward their mother as Jake pulled the stretcher inside. He slammed the airlock button and felt his ship seal shut. 1 minute. "Computer, emergency jump, any direction, maximum distance, now," Jake shouted. His ship's engines roared to life. Through the viewport, Jake saw the alien vessel start to glow bright orange. Then space twisted around his ship as the jump drive engaged. When the stars stopped blurring, the alien vessel was gone, just a distant flash of light in the nebula behind them. Jake collapsed against the wall, pulling off his helmet and gasping for air. The three young creatures huddled around their unconscious mother, chirping softly. The smallest one looked up at Jake, tilted its head, and made a sound almost like a purr. Jake smiled despite his exhaustion. "You're safe now," he whispered. Jake set his ship's course for the nearest medical station. According to his navigation computer, it would take 3 days to reach Frontier Station 7. He hoped the alien mother could hold on that long. His cargo bay had become an emergency medical room, with the mother resting on padded blankets Jake had spread across the floor. The three young ones stayed close to their mother, but their golden eyes followed Jake everywhere he moved. He had given them water in shallow bowls, which they lapped up eagerly. Food was trickier. Jake tried offering them different things from his supplies. They sniffed at dried meat with interest and nibbled carefully, their small teeth surprisingly sharp. "I'm Jake," he said, pointing to himself. The largest of the three younglings tilted her head, studying him. She was clearly the brave one, always positioning herself between Jake and her siblings when he came close. "And you are?" Jake asked, knowing she couldn't answer but feeling like he should talk to them anyway. The young one made a series of chirps and clicks. Jake recorded the sound on his datapad. Maybe the translation software could make sense of it later. He pointed to her. "I'll call you Kessa for now. Sounds brave like you." "You're the careful one," Jake said. "Vorin, that's a good strong name." When Jake laughed, she made a happy chirping sound and did it again. "And your little Pip," Jake said, scratching gently behind her head ridge. She leaned into his touch, purring. On the second day, Jake woke to find the mother's eyes open. They were the same golden color as her children's, but deeper, ancient, and wise. She watched him as he approached slowly, hands visible and empty. Jake pointed to himself. "Jake, friend." "I'm trying to help." The mother touched each one gently with her snout, checking them over. Jake gave them space, preparing a meal in his small galley. He heard movement behind him and turned to find the mother standing, shaky but upright. She was magnificent, easily twice the size of her children, with scales that caught the light like precious gems. She looked at Jake, and he saw intelligence in those eyes that made him catch his breath. "You need to rest," Jake said gently. "You were hurt badly." Once their mother was settled, Kessa climbed onto Jake's lap and looked up at him with trusting eyes. Jake's translation software finally processed enough of their sounds to offer basic meanings. He learned the species was called Velkari. The program had limited information, just old records from a forgotten database. The Velkari homeworld had been destroyed nearly 50 years ago in a war. Most people believed the entire species was extinct. "But you're not extinct," Jake said softly, looking at the mother. "You survived." They learned incredibly quickly, understanding patterns after seeing them just once or twice. Vorin became fascinated with Jake's tools, watching intently as Jake made small repairs around the ship. Pip loved music, swaying her head when Jake played songs from his personal collection. Kessa appointed herself as Jake's shadow, following him from room to room and mimicking his actions. The mother watched all of this with careful attention. Jake caught her studying him when she thought he wasn't looking. Sometimes she made soft sounds to her children, and they would respond, having what seemed like conversations. Jake wondered what they were saying about him. On the third morning, Jake was showing Pip how to operate the light switches when the mother approached him. She moved with more strength now, her injuries clearly healing. She stood before Jake and did something unexpected. She lowered her head and touched his hand gently with her snout, then made a long, melodic sound. The translation software flickered to life on Jake's datapad. The words appeared slowly. "Gratitude, life debt, kin keeper." The mother made more sounds and the software translated again. "You saved my children. You gave kindness expecting nothing. Velkari remember. Velkari honor debts." Anyone would have done the same. The younglings gathered around him, pressing against his legs. Little Pip climbed up to his shoulder, nuzzling against his neck. Kessa placed her small paw on his boot. Vorin watched him with those huge golden eyes, blinking slowly. "What are your names?" Jake asked. "Your real names." Sithara's eyes seemed to glow in the dim light. They have chosen you. The station served as a medical hub for the outer colonies, equipped to handle various species and medical emergencies. Jake contacted them as he approached, explaining he had injured aliens aboard who needed proper treatment. The docking process took longer than usual. Station security wanted to scan his ship thoroughly before allowing him to enter. Jake understood their caution, but he worried about Sithara. Though she had improved greatly, she still needed professional medical care. The younglings sensed his tension and stayed close, their chirps quieter than usual. Finally, the docking clamps engaged with a heavy thunk. Jake opened his cargo bay doors to find a medical team waiting with floating stretchers and scanning equipment. A human doctor named Lisa Grant led the team. Her eyes widened when she saw Sithara and the younglings. "Are those Velkari?" Lisa asked, her voice filled with disbelief. "That's impossible. They've been extinct for decades. And they need help." Sithara made a calm, deep sound that seemed to settle her children, but she watched the doctors with cautious eyes. Jake knelt down beside the younglings. "It's okay. These people are healers. They want to help your mother get better." He looked at Lisa. "Can I stay with them?" "They trust me." The younglings refused to leave her side until Jake sat in a chair nearby. Then they settled at his feet, watching everything with wide, golden eyes. The examination took hours. Lisa and her team ran countless scans, collecting data with obvious excitement. Jake learned that Velkari biology was remarkable. Their scales contained minerals that helped them heal quickly. Their bodies could adapt to different atmospheres and gravity levels. No wonder Sithara had recovered so well in just 3 days. "She'll make a full recovery," Lisa finally announced. "Her injuries are healing perfectly. The younglings are completely healthy. This is amazing. We need to document this, study them properly. The medical community will want to know everything about Velkari biology. But you're the last of your species. The knowledge we could gain would be invaluable for science and medicine." "No records." Jake hadn't thought that far ahead. He had focused only on getting them to safety, to medical help. Now he realized the Velkari family had nowhere to go. Their world was gone. They were alone in a universe that might not accept them. After the medical team left, Jake sat with Sithara and the younglings in the quiet bay. Pip crawled into his lap, tired from the long day. Kessa and Vorin rested their heads on his knees. Sithara watched this with soft eyes. "I need to leave tomorrow," Jake said quietly. "My company is probably angry about the delays. I have deliveries waiting, bills to pay." Even as he said the words, his chest felt heavy. The thought of saying goodbye to these 4 beings made him feel hollow. Sithara made a long, complex series of sounds. The translation came slowly. In Velkari culture, there is a sacred bond. When someone saves a life, especially the life of younglings, a debt is created. Not a debt of money or things, but a debt of spirit. You are now kin keeper to my children. What does that mean? This bond cannot be broken easily. I don't know anything about raising alien younglings. I don't know your culture or your needs. I'm nobody special. In my culture, refusing a kin-keeper bond brings great shame to the younglings. It tells them they are not worthy of love. It breaks something inside them. I saved you because it was the right thing to do, not because I wanted to adopt a family. He needed air space to think. The younglings stirred, making worried sounds. "I need time," Jake said. "This is too much." Even in his arms, Pip shifted restlessly, sensing his distress. Jake spent the night in a station guest room, but sleep wouldn't come. He stared at the ceiling, thinking about the Velkari family down in the medical bay. The station had provided them with a larger room for the night, comfortable and safe. But safe wasn't the same as home. They had no home. His datapad buzzed with a message. Jake's heart sank as he read it. The shipping company had terminated his contract. Too many delays, they said, unreliable behavior. They were selling his cargo to cover losses and keeping his deposit. Just like that, his job was gone. Jake should have felt angry, but instead he felt something strange. Relief, maybe, or freedom. He had been flying the same boring routes for 3 years, hauling boxes from one colony to another, never staying anywhere long enough to matter. Now that tie was cut, and he had nothing pulling him away. In the morning, Jake returned to the medical bay. Sithara was awake, looking stronger than ever. The younglings were playing with some soft blocks the medical staff had left for them. When they saw Jake, all 3 rushed toward him, chirping happily. Pip jumped into his arms. Kessa pressed against his leg. Vorin made a pleased sound and touched Jake's hand with his snout. Jake sat down on the floor and the younglings climbed all over him. Despite everything, he smiled. "I lost my job," he told Cythera, "so I guess I have some time now." She made sounds that translated as, "Then stay with us, just for a while. Let me explain properly what kin keeper means. Let me tell you about my people." She spoke slowly, making sure the translation software caught every detail. Jake learned that Velkari had been peaceful explorers, traveling the stars to learn and share knowledge. They had no weapons, no armies. When the war came to their world, they couldn't defend themselves. "I was off-planet when it happened," Cythera explained. "I had taken a research trip to study ancient ruins. When I tried to return home, there was nothing left, just debris and silence. I searched for months, finding no other survivors. I thought I was the last. I wanted my species to continue, even if just through them. But raising them alone, always hiding, always running from those who might want to study or exploit us, it has been hard." Vorin carefully studied how she did it, then built his own. Pip knocked both towers down and chirped happily. They were so innocent, so full of life. They didn't know they were the last of their kind. "What does a kin keeper actually do?" Jake asked. A kin keeper is a trusted adult who helps raise younglings alongside their parents. In old Velkari society, every family had at least 2 or 3 kin keepers. It showed younglings different ways of thinking, different skills, different perspectives. "My children will grow up knowing only Velkari ways from me. But with you, they learn human ways too. They become bridges between species. Then they learn that making mistakes is part of growing. Jake, I do not need you to be perfect. I need you to be honest and kind. You have already shown me you are both." Lisa had given him permission to use an empty medical bay as a play area. He started with Kessa, the brave one. She showed him how she could already recognize different symbols and match them together. Jake taught her a simple human game with colored tiles. She picked it up immediately, her golden eyes bright with intelligence. "You're so smart," Jake told her. "You're going to do amazing things someday." She carefully arranged the tiles to spell out a shape that looked almost like his name. She looked up at him, waiting for approval. "Yes, that's me, that's Jake." He hugged her gently and she purred. With Vorin, Jake discovered a deep thinker. The youngling watched everything with careful attention. Jake showed him how to operate a simple datapad, expecting it to take time. Instead, Vorin figured out the basic controls in minutes. He pulled up images of different planets and studied them intently. "You like learning, don't you?" Jake asked. Vorin looked at him and made a complex series of sounds. The translation said, "Want to understand everything, want to know why things work. Your species would be proud." When she got tired, she climbed onto Jake's shoulders and fell asleep there, her small body warm and trusting. That evening, Jake sat with Cythera while the younglings slept in a pile nearby. "I'm scared," he admitted. "I've never been responsible for anyone but myself. What if I let them down? A place where my children can grow up free, where they can be themselves without hiding. I have some credits saved. I have skills, but I need help. I need someone I trust." Somehow during the night, all 3 younglings had found their way into his room. Kessa was sprawled across his feet, and Vorin had claimed the pillow beside his head. Jake smiled despite himself. They had decided where they belonged, and apparently it was with him. Cythera was already awake when Jake carried the sleepy younglings back to the medical bay. She looked at him with knowing eyes. "They always sleep better near those they love," she said through the translator. "About your offer," Jake began. "About finding a safe world and raising them together. I've been thinking all night. I don't have a job anymore. I don't have family waiting for me anywhere. For 3 years, I've been flying alone through space, moving boxes from place to place. I told myself it was freedom, but really it was just loneliness with a prettier name." Jake knelt down so he was eye level with the younglings. "You 3 have shown me more trust in a few days than most humans show me in years. And Cythera, you're offering me something I didn't know I needed, a purpose, a family. I don't know anything about raising Velkari younglings, but I want to try. I want to help you find that safe world. I want to be there when these 3 grow up and discover who they're meant to be." The younglings erupted in excited chirps and rushed at Jake, nearly knocking him over. Pip climbed to his shoulders. Kessa pressed her head against his chest. Vorin wrapped himself around Jake's arm, purring loudly. "Then it is decided," Cythera said. You are officially kin-keeper to my children. In Velkari tradition, this bond is as strong as blood. You are family now. Sithara had been researching remote planets for months. She had found several possibilities, worlds far from major trade routes where they could live undisturbed. Jake sold his cargo ship to a dealer at the station. It wasn't worth much, but combined with Sithara's savings, they had enough to buy a larger vessel with proper living quarters. The new ship was called the Wanderer. It had 4 sleeping rooms, a real galley, and a large common area where the younglings could play. Jake and Sithara worked together to make it feel like home. They painted one wall with glow paint so the younglings could create art. They installed a viewing dome where they could watch the stars together. Lisa came to say goodbye before they left the station. "I've never seen anything like this," she told Jake. "A human and a Velkari raising younglings together, it's beautiful." They were stronger, more confident. Kessa could now read basic human text. Vorin had learned to help Jake with simple ship repairs. Pip had discovered she loved to sing, making melodic sounds that filled the ship with music. Their destination was a planet called Haven's Edge, located in an uncharted system. It had breathable air, fresh water, and no intelligent life. Scans showed forests, oceans, and mountains. It was perfect for a new beginning. The journey would take 2 weeks. Jake used the time to learn more about Velkari culture from Sithara. She taught him their history, their values, their way of seeing the universe. In return, Jake taught the younglings about humanity. He showed them Earth foods and music. He told them stories about human explorers and scientists and artists. "You're not trying to make them human," Sithara observed one evening. "You're showing them that being different is valuable. I want them to know they don't have to carry it alone. They can be Velkari and still appreciate other cultures. They can honor their past while building their own future." Jake sat beside him. "What's wrong, buddy? You're going to create something new. You and your sisters are going to grow up on a beautiful planet. You'll have the best of both Velkari and human wisdom. You'll be the first of a new generation. You're everything." Jake pulled the youngling closer. "And you'll never be alone. You have your mother, you have your sisters, and you have me, always." The planet glowed blue and green with white clouds swirling across its surface. It looked like a gem floating in space. Sithara stood beside him, the younglings pressed against her legs. "A new home," she said softly. "A new beginning," Jake agreed. As the Wanderer descended through the atmosphere, Pip climbed onto Jake's shoulders like she always did. Kessa held his hand. Vorin pressed close to his side. Sithara's tail gently touched his arm. They had found each other in the darkness of space, 4 lost souls who became a family. Now they would build something beautiful together on this new world. He saved the alien young. Their mother refuses to let him leave.